Okay, so today we're going to discuss the first play that you hopefully already have read or will read as soon as possible. It's called Water by the Spoonful. You can get the play at the bookstore on campus, or you can order it as well as the electronic version of the play. This play is pretty cool because it really relates to our class on in a lot of ways as we talk about culture, and because our class is an online class, so we have this culture of being online. It kind of speaks to both of those things. Also, this play is the most current of all the plays that we will read this semester. So we get to see and read something that we can relate to in terms of the vernacular and the slang, the wording, um, and just in our everyday culture that we know of today in the 2000s. So I think this is a pretty cool way for us to start and kind of get an understanding of reading a play, understanding a play as we move throughout the semester. So let's talk a little bit about it. I found a photo of a woman online in an online community, and like I said, this really relates to our class, but also this play. And I want you to consider a lot of things when reading or after having read the play. Water by the Spoonful focuses on people working through recovering from drug addiction and traumatic events. The people online are working through drug addiction, and pretty much everyone in the play is working through recovery from a traumatic event. So I want you to consider different ways people think about recovery. And how do you think about recovery personally? And what different kinds of recovery have you experienced, both being the recoverer or watching someone else in recovery? And this can include all kinds of recovery. So really expand your mind when you think of that word. Sometimes it becomes a negative word because we think of substance abuse. But it can also be all kinds of other ways to recover, physical, mental, emotional. What do you think recovery might have? How do you think recovery might have affected the people around the person in recovery? So, if you've ever been through recovery, how does it affect your family and friends? And if you've seen someone in recovery, how have you been affected? So, I want to talk a little bit about the playwright, and we will discuss later in the semester what is a playwright. This playwright's name is, and I'm hoping I'm saying it correctly, Quieta Alguerria Hughes. And of course, she's in West Philadelphia, born and raised. And she has a large family that sprawls across the city and across ethnicities. So we can already see how she relates to this play. She's Jewish on her father's side and Puerto Rican on her mother's. Hughes' mixed background profoundly influenced her worldview. So let's talk a little bit about what got her to this point to writing plays. She studied actually music composition at Yale, so she's very smart, and she went to an Ivy League school to study music, and then she decided to be be in a band basically, and it wasn't working very well. And her mother reminded her that even as a child, she was always a good writer. So she decided to go to another Ivy League school, Brown University, and get an MFA, which is a Master's of Fine Arts in playwriting. And like I said, we'll discuss later what is playwriting, but just know that that's the author or the writer of the play. And she has won or been at least nominated for several Pulitzer Prizes, including the 2008 Tony Award winning musical In the Heights, which you may have heard of, about 3 days among the residents of Washington Heights, a neighborhood in New York City. She's also won or been nominated for a play called 26 Miles and Lin-Manuel Miranda. So This is the second of a trilogy. If you're familiar with a trilogy, you know that's three. Or maybe you've seen a trilogy of movies. This is actually a trilogy of plays, and it's called the Elliot trilogy because Elliot is the character that we see in each of these three plays that she writes in this trilogy. The first one is called Elliot, A Soldier's Vogue, and it opened in February of 2006 in New York, and the play focuses on Elliot, who we know as the war-wounded young man, as he returns from Iraq and traces the legacy of war through three generations of his family. That's what that first play is about, and it also was a Pulitzer Prize finalist. So Water by the Spoonful is the second play, and then the last one and the final installment of the Elliot trilogy was in 2013. It's called The Happiest Song Plays Last. The emotional validity as well as huge connection with family is evident in her plays. That this play specifically, Water by the Spoonful, premiered at the Goodman Theater, and she still continues to relocate her energy. So let's specifically talk about this play. We already know that the playwright is from Philadelphia, so she sets this play in Philadelphia, and we know the playwright is Latina, and she has one of the main characters of this play, Latina. Her name is Jenny Ortiz, and she's a beloved community activist and rattles two of her family members. One of them is Elliot. We know Elliot from the first play of her trilogy, the Elliot trilogies. He's the combat veteran, and in this play he's adjusting to a civilian life and balancing cancer treatments as he works at a suburban subway station. He does this so that the people in his community, his friends, won't know that he, as he says, is a butler of sandwiches. Despite his provisional equilibrium, Elliot can't shake his physical and emotional souvenirs of his combat experience. So he's a very smart young man, but he still has this limp that he's dealing with. We've already talked about recovery of an emotional, physical recovery there, and then the emotional recovery of having this ghost that's continuing to follow him that speaks Arabic. Another character in this play is Yaz. She's a college music professor. Again, we see traces of our playwright's past. And here's another example of that. She's married to a white man, but she's trying to balance this life of being from the barrio, which is the Latino neighborhood, and academia. So kind of her two different worlds. And then we also see this group of crack addicts online, and we at first don't know exactly who they are. We just see avatars for their images, and they have usernames, and they rely on each other to keep each other sober. These stunted lives start to intersect on and offline. The play begs the question, what are the differences between our biological and makeshift families? So I want you to consider that as you read the play, as we start this process of our class. Consider that as you get to meet other people and we learn about other people. You'll be in groups eventually, so you'll really get to focus on just a smaller group of people instead of the whole entire class, and hopefully make those type of relationships that we will see or have seen in this play. When reflecting on her decision to set half of the play online, she says, one of the things that was exciting for me about including an online world was that I felt that I had seen plays that were really important and valid critiques of the internet as a place where people can damage each other and hurt each other, but also they can lift each other up and help each other. Look at this picture and just imagine that this is something that's new to our society, that we can interact with people all over the world and get to know and have close relationships with people all over the world, which was something that wasn't really, it is a fairly new phenomenon. It's a very cool phenomenon, and we should enjoy it and have fun with it and learn from it. So please, if you have not already, read the play and take the quiz, and we will be discussing it, and discussing lots of things in this class, so this is a great way for us to start our class. Have a great week, and you'll hear from me again next week. Bye.